Have you ever heard of the cartoon show Bluey before? If not, then allow me to dump the load on you. It's a preschool show about a hyperactive child named Bluey, a blue cattle dog based in Australia with her various family and friends, often going on zany episodic adventures with a strong focus on childhood glee, family, and the freedom to be a dog child. If you aren't caught up with my previous entry with this program, to make a long story short, it involves sanitation, a doped out coworker, a near death experience, a DVD of Bluey, and ultimately an overdose to round it all out. Yeah, I know, a quintuple whammy. Despite my rather sudden and harsh introduction to this series, it quickly grew on me during the hardest times of my life. I'm 45 years old. I lied to my family. I lied to my friends. I borrowed money. I never paid it back. Yet Bluey was always there for me, a middle aged man in the lowest of my life's plummets. I was stranded after losing my apartment and pretty much everything I owned and anyone I ever knew and loved. Everything pointed toward me going to prison until I fortunately ended up reconsolidating with my closest previous coworker acquaintance during these times, James, for what was originally meant to be my personal benefit when he was no better off than I was. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt I have an undiagnosed case of sociopathy. However, my now considered friend James, he surprisingly turned his life around drastically, became a better human in every demonstrable factor when I came back around. He's now converted to Presbyterianism, a vegetarian, a yoga instructor. He even went back to school and is on his way to his associate's degree in theology. He found Jesus after a missionary was outside of his rehabilitation center and gave him what must have been a really caring and thoughtful word for him in this state at the time. He picked me up where I was down. He just wanted to help a brother out, as he would put it. He's since let me bunk with him in his pretty upscale apartment with his well paying job. Yuck! I brought in my collection of various Bluey DVDs, figurines, dolls, basically everything Bluey related since it was the last of my belongings I ever lived for. I can tell James still internally judged me for my interest in preschool TV by his facial expressions I'd spot in my peripheral while tuning into new episodes. Yet he pushed off all of his completely justified internal judgments just for me. And that couldn't have been more clear until this faithful morning. At first, it seemed like a Thursday like any other. I woke up and hopped straight out of bed, roughly around 2 hours after James went to work. Decked out in blue Hanes drawers and bright bluey socks, I made a brief trip over to the thermostat before turning the temperature up to a cozy 77 degrees for the ultimate barely clothed stay home comfort. I was in the kitchen about to reheat some leftover Olive Garden before, out of the corner of my eye, on the living room table, I spotted something rather queer. A small box with a note attached. Well, more like a torn out piece of notebook paper taped onto an old empty Amazon package. All been there before. My curiosity got the better of me as I walked over to check it out. I inspected the piece of paper and seen my name written in bold lettering with a small "From James" on it. A gift just for me? I haven't gotten one of those since I was a child. Now I'm just a man child. I was ready to unbox this treat, but I knew beforehand that I had to dress proper for the occasion. I quickly ran into my room, grabbed some bright blue pajama pants and a nice oversized t-shirt from the now ultimate clothed Bluey themed comfort. I ran back in and dug in the box to grab the DVD, and rather than pure excitement, which I had anticipated, I felt a big wave of confusion. Instead of the usual Bluey cover with the family standing together, it just branded Bluey holding RX prescriptions in each hand, brandishing a lab coat. No, 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 this would not do. Bluey was not a Labrador. I turned the case to the back, and Bingo, the youngest girl, was seen climbing a ladder with a 3M vest and hard hat on. I opened the case, and the CD itself was completely blank. Oh, I knew there was only one way I could figure out what was in this thing. Without any hesitation, I found the DVD player and inserted the disc as I took a sip of an ice cold Coca Cola before anything else could happen. The background of the main menu was a PDF of the job app, as the only episode selection option appeared as employment. Now, at this point, I took personal offense at this display. What the hell was this? This wasn't the Bluey I knew and loved at all. I selected the only episode available, and it began with no intro or anything. It faded into Bluey approaching the front of Chloe's, Bluey's best friend's household. Bluey knocked as Chloe could be seen behind translucent glass as she approached the door and opened it in a full doctor suit. ID, coat, and all. A logo for Blue Dog Blue Shield was apparent on her white coat as she gazed at Bluey happily. Well, hey, Bluey, I didn't expect you to be here, Chloe said. Bluey sent a look of confusion at this sight. Yeah, my dad dropped me off since he had a spot-em-get-em case to do at the police station or something. And hey, why are you in full scrubs? Bluey asked, confused. Well, I just became a doctor, and I'm going out on my first day today. And honestly, I always wanted to be one since I performed my first temperature on my stuffed teddy. Plus, my dad says they pay well, and I'll help out the house or something. To be honest, I never really seen him work a job before, Chloe answered. Well, that's interesting. I thought doctors required years of medical study or something, Bluey asked. Chloe began laughing rather loudly at this assertion. Oh, Bluey, not anymore in this day and age. You see, with the advent of artificial intelligence, I was able to pass this class in 40 minutes flat, she replied. Bluey was simultaneously shocked and in pure glee to this answer. Wow, so this means I can become a doctor too? Bluey asked excitedly. Absolutely. In fact, we can get you a degree on Daddy's computer if you want, Chloe replied. Bluey then began frantically shaking her head yes before Chloe signaled over to the computer. Chloe clicked on whatever .edu online doctorate course was available and immediately began imputing all of Bluey Healer's information she somehow obtained onto the university's website. Phew. Okay, that was the hardest part. And now for the fun part, Chloe demanded. She then pulled up ChatGPT, AI image reader, and multiple other different artificial sources of problem solving and practically speedran the course. The AI computed almost everything immediately, near perfect results. After a 30-second time lapse, she was nearly done. Chloe giggled and began hyping up Bluey before clicking the last submit button for her finals. And now I may proudly present Dr. Healer. She clicked submit on some ultra hard final before it stated that Bluey Healy had graduated with flying colors. Bluey jumped in the air, similar to how she does in the intro, and I do when I get excited to watch Bluey. Chloe grabbed her to calm her down the best she could. So how does it feel to be the first person in your family with a college education? Chloe asked. It feels amazing. Thank you so much, Chloe. Bluey ecstatically replied. They high-fived before the doorbell rang out of nowhere. I wonder who that could be, Chloe asked. The both of them quickly made their way to the front door before being met with a box from Blue Dog Blue Shield with a label stating Bluey Healer. Guess that's for me. I wonder how they found out I was staying here instead of sending it to my address, let alone deliver it that fast, Bluey questioned. IP addresses, net codes, or something? Oh, who cares? You're a doctor now, Bluey. Chloe pepped. Bluey then gave her friend her signature autism stare before fully opening the box to reveal her very own scrubs, Blue Dog Blue Shield ID, documentation, and degree. Wow, Bluey remarked. She immediately put the full outfit on and it all fit like a glove somehow. She went back to the box and further dug through it before the both of them got notified on their phones that they had an upcoming shift that afternoon. Does this mean that we're working together? They both asked in unison. Chloe's dad, Frank, then walked in the frame and smiled at the both of them before making conversation. So, are you girls ready for your first day in the office? Frank asked the two. You bet we are, the both of them responded, and then cut to them entering Frank's car and rambling on about being doctors or whatever before the scene cut forward to them arriving at the office building. Frank parked the car and looked back at the both of them. Well, girls, we're here. Have a good first day at work, Frank said. They gave their thanks as the both of them ran out the car and the camera cut back over the Frank's face, where it was plastered with a bizarrely devious expression. A transition with RX prescriptions engulfing the screen commenced when the camera zoomed into a construction site where I saw something rather concerning. Bingo, the youngest sister, was seen operating a crane on her own. She's seen wearing that same outfit as on the back cover of the DVD as she lowered a crane holding a beam to floor level. She was giggling and fooling around as she slipped the controls and dropped the beam directly on top of another worker. Bone crushing could be heard as the camera panned to the mangled body on the top of the ground as the beam lifted above its disfigured carcass, exposed bone and dismembered limbs cascading the unfinished pavement as Bingo continued giggling in ignorant bliss. She continued grabbing and twisting the controls toward exposed metal plates, rods, and steel beams, continuing the steady stream of mayhem upon the site. After about 20 seconds of this destruction, it panned out toward the damages. Over 10 or so disfigured carcasses were seen thrown around the site. Dried blood splattered all over the equipment and unfinished construction. Bingo was still somehow completely ignorant toward her own damages as she casually exited the crane to go on what appeared to be her break. The scene then changed to Bandit at Chloe's house. Inside, Frank, Chloe's father, was seen intensely browsing his computer before being startled by Bandit knocking at his front door. He closed out his tabs before going to the door and swiftly answering it. Oh, hey, Bandit, come on in, Frank said, opening the door. Bandit entered as he made his way to his refrigerator openly and grabbing an ice-cold Sprite chill. So, Frank, life's been so much easier since they revoked those child labor laws so our kids can work for us, right? Bandit asked. You say that again. Chloe and Bluey couldn't hold in their joy when I dropped them off on their jobs. Now we can have lower social structure and monetize the actions of a bunch of fucking retards, Frank exclaimed. They both shared a laugh as Frank continued the conversation. And I can safely continue my investments with no worries of future collapse, Frank added. Bandit now glanced over in a somewhat confused look toward his bud. Wait, What do you mean, investments? Were you never employed to begin with? Bandit asked, genuinely intrigued. Frank nodded. You see, Bandit, us crypto dogs make various investments in various things, from stocks, Bitcoin, wages, hell, even bets that have the highest probability of a decent return. Elections to corruption, you name it. There's a bet or investment to be made in almost anything. Just like the last rigged election, I made over £10,000 that day. How do you think I can afford this Tesla in this house, Bandit? Frank replied, serious yet giggly. Bandit then looked absolutely dumbfounded at this reply. Whoa, man, I never realized you could get this much out of non tangible internet currency. Since when did you first get into this stuff? Bandit asked. Well, when I first went into the state prison for some stuff on DVD and hard drives I probably shouldn't have kept in my possession, if you catch my drift, Chloe's mother called the police on me and they tried to seize everything in my belongings, including my daughter. Well, safe to say, I couldn't afford the loss of all of my beloved possessions and life in the penitentiary. I had to talk tail and PC to avoid even being curb stomped by real Australian patriots in the facilities. Thank goodness I claimed a disease and those fuckers let me free, Frank said with a wide, uncomfortably autistic grin on his face. Bandit looked over in discomfort before Frank continued his explanation. So, when I finally got out, I luckily won the child support case in my favor and was made to stay in a nearby homeless shelter with Chloe. With nothing really to lose except my daughter, I decided to make a big jump toward this crypto thing with whatever was left of my name. And to my absolute delight, I won up to double my remaining checking account worth. So I kept investing and investing, and finally I hit it big. Flipped virtually nothing into $1 million in little under 5 months. So I got out of the homeless shelter with my daughter, put a generous down payment on this house, bought a nice electric vehicle, and here we are, Frank exclaimed. Bandit understandably took a little while to take it all in before continuing. Well, do you regret any past decisions you've made, such as potentially putting you and your daughter in permanent vulnerable financial crisis? Absolutely not. The only thing I'm really disappointed in is my first and only wife not deciding to get back together with me after that entire thing. I still kind of feel bad stealing money from poor people and child support payments I really don't need. But here we are. Plus, I still own those same hard drives and DVDs that got me felonies in the first place. They shoved it into those bastards' faces. Collected more, fulfill my depraved desires. Let's just say those go big on the dark web. I could give you a free copy if you want, Frank asked. Bandit was taken aback at this suggestion as Frank began digging through his DVD collection. Um, I think I'm okay, Frank. Thanks anyway, Bandit replied hesitantly. Hey, no problem, man. If you need anything, just ask me, Frank said. Bandit nodded slightly as the scene once again changed to a later time of the day with Bandit and the kids in the car after he picked them up, parking in the driveway of their house as he attempted to make conversation with them. Well, girls, how was your first day on the job? Bandit said lightheartedly. Bluey then shot a devastated stare toward her father from behind. It was terrible. I mean, I don't know what therapeutics are, and why are preschoolers even allowed to work jobs that require years of institutional study suddenly? Bluey asked, slowly exiting the car. Bingo agreed as she also shot up and out of the car further chiming in. Yeah, I'm not even in preschool yet, and I'm somehow already blue collar. Blueprints, reinforced concrete. I mean, I don't know plumbing, Bingo added. Well, you kids like playing in the dirt, so that's why I decided to employ you in that field, Bandit replied. Employed? But we aren't being paid anything, Bingo responded. Bluey nodded in agreement as Bandit began fuming. Well, you two are being paid in life experience and community service. Some more dogs like yourself can have a clean place to shit, Bandit casually responded before continuing. Plus, I have no impulse control. So I'm just going to continue to yell and instill fear into the both of ye, whether verbally or physically, because I want to maintain my masculine supervision role. So don't question anything I'm saying, Bandit added. Well, I'm an autistic child, so why would I care about having parental supervision anyway? Especially online, Bluey responded. Yeah, same here. And why did your submissive genes create such retarded children anyway? Bingo added. Bandit then on took a softer expression to sway his children toward his side. You know, girls, maybe you're right. Look, maybe my complete arrogance towards you two, which is completely justified, by the way, activated both of your tard rages so that each of you slowly became conscious and aware of what I'm doing to you both. And girls, we don't need to fight. We can all put our faith in God, and it'll all be up to Him to pave the way for a gracious future. It'll also be up to Him to decide if animals actually have souls, so that we don't all stuck in purgatory forever, along with all the unbaptized children watching this television program. Bandit said as he stared at the viewer for an inordinate amount of time. He then attempted to commence in a group hug for a wholesome ending before Bluey began seeing red and went berserk. That's right! I'm a part of the army of gold! I'm never listening to you, nor the government ever again! And I'm surely not paying taxes or all of that money I owe you! Fuck you too! She proceeded to storm away from the premises as Bingo quickly followed. Bluey crashed out. Right then, the tape suddenly faded to black as the credits rolled. I couldn't believe what I just watched. I mean, was this a real episode? Could Joe Brum and the team really make something this twisted and fucked up? I dialed his number. I'd already saved it on my phone from the last time I dialed him. Got a response from him rather quickly. Listen, I don't know about no lost Bluey shit. The police are on the way. Never call this number again, he yelled before hanging up. The call ended as I maintained a bewildered expression on my face. I mean, how could Bluey do this to me? More questions appeared unanswered as loud sirens began approaching the apartment complex. By this time, I had already accepted my fate. I ejected the DVD from the player and grabbed the case. I quickly smashed both the bits and tossed it in the trash to destroy what I presumed to be the evidence before I made my way toward the door and swiftly exited the complex. There, multiple officers were waiting, standing by for me, handcuffs in hand. I didn't resist. I got checked in, escorted to my cell, waited my court date, but as I would soon come to figure out, they didn't do a thorough enough background check to warrant my stay in there. It'd be too long. An officer approached my cell. I was escorted over to reception, and to my surprise, I saw James standing there. Another officer approached me as he explained that I was being bailed out. James did this, just for me. After that moment, I pledged to finally get my life back on track. At this moment, I now know my purpose in life. I now moderate the official Bluey subreddit, wiki page, and various Bluey social media pages, and am now a devout Presbyterian and attend service every Sunday. If there's one lesson I've learned from this experience, it's to always help a brother out. Even John Calvin already predestined if you're going to do that shite anyway.